Hi friends, this is the reading lesson for second grade. We are going to read a story today called Famous Inventors. It is on page 14 in your booklets. So you need your booklets open to page 14, you need a pencil, and you need a highlighter. We're going to read this story in two parts. So we'll read one part today, one part tomorrow. We are going to learn about three different inventors and all of their accomplishments that they had. So today we're going to read the introduction, Thomas Edison and Alexander Graham Bell, and then tomorrow we'll read about George Washington Carver and we'll read the conclusion. As we read, you are going to underline important key details and then we'll write some main ideas. If you are ready, we'll go ahead and get started.
Extended Read 1. Remember to annotate as you read.
Famous Inventors by Margaret McNamara. Introduction. An inventor is someone who creates something new. An inventor also finds new ways to do things. An inventor works to solve problems. Get ready to meet and read about three famous inventors. They were also scientists. Find out what they invented. Learn what problems they solved. See how their inventions changed the way people live every day.
All right, so let's stop there and let's go ahead and grab our pencils and we're going to underline some key details. So first, we should probably underline what it is, what an inventor is, right? They have some different things that they do. So in paragraph 1, it says, an inventor is someone who creates something new. So that's one option. Finds new ways to do things and works to solve problems. So those three things are all things that inventors do. Okay, they create new things, they find new ways to do things that are already being done, and they always are solving some kind of problem. And we know from last week that inventions change the way that people live their life. Remember Mary Anderson and the windshield wipers? It changed the way people got to drive in bad weather. And we know that George de Menstral, his hook and loop fabric that helped people attach things and tie their shoes and things like that. So it made people's lives better. So inventions, let's go ahead and underline this. Inventions change the way people live every day. All right. So now we're going to read about Thomas Alva Edison. And I just want to let you know that these little dates right here are the dates that he was alive. So he was born in 1847 and he died in 1931. So that's just telling you a little bit extra about their life. But while we are reading, I want you to make sure that you are underlining, okay? You can also be highlighting. I forgot. Usually we highlight. I'm not sure why I started to underline, but either way works. If you'd rather highlight, that's totally fine. I'm probably going to switch to my highlighter. But anyway, so make sure that you are highlighting or underlining the key details. And remember, key details doesn't mean that we underline every single word. If you notice right here, I didn't underline every single word. I underlined an inventor, and then I underlined the three things that they could do. In this one, I only underlined this part of the sentence, okay? So you're going to take your hand at highlighting on your own today, okay? And then we'll check back and see what happens. So let's keep going.
Thomas Alva Edison. Alexander Graham Bell. George Washington Carver.
Thomas Alva Edison, 1847 to 1931. Thomas Alva Edison loved to read and to learn. He also loved to try to make new things. In 1869, he came up with his first big invention. He made improvements to a machine used by the stock market. His invention was so good that he was paid $40,000. That is like $1 million today. Edison decided to become a full-time inventor. That turned out to be good for the entire world.
On August 12th, 1877, Edison invented the first phonograph.
All right, so you should have been highlighting as we were reading. If you need a minute, you can pause the video and go back and highlight right now. So Thomas Edison, he loved to read and he loved to make new things, right? It says he came up with so many different inventions, and his first invention was in 1869, and it says it was a machine that was used by the stock market. Okay. Um, and he just made improvements. He didn't invent it himself, he just made improvements for it. So let's go ahead and highlight 1869. He made improvements to a machine used by the stock market. Now, if you highlighted something different, totally fine. Okay. Now, what I find to be interesting right here is that his invention was so good, they gave him $40,000 for it. But what's even more interesting is that that is like $1 million today, because they didn't have as much money back then. And there's something called inflation where money is worth more now, and or less actually rather. And so he gets more money. He would get more money today if he invented that. So $40,000 was a huge thing. So he decided to become a full-time inventor once he did this first one, and it was definitely going to be helpful for the entire world. If you want to highlight this little caption right here, talks about him inventing the phonograph. And then when you're ready, let's go ahead and turn the page.
During his lifetime, Edison and his workers came up with more than 1,000 inventions. He is best known for inventing the first long-lasting electric light bulb. He also invented the phonograph. The first phonograph made recordings of people talking or singing. He invented the first movie camera, too. When you're up one night watching a movie or listening to music, think about Thomas Edison.
Edison tested the first successful incandescent lamp.
Okay, so it says that Edison and his workers came up with 1,000 inventions, more than 1,000 inventions. So I find that to be pretty fascinating. He invented the first long-lasting light bulb. He invented the phonograph, and the phonograph made recordings of people talking or singing. Very cool. He also invented the first movie camera. Wow. He invented so many different things that we still use in some form today. Pretty fascinating, right? All right, we're going to read next about Alexander Graham Bell, and then we're going to go back and write our main ideas. Here we go.
Alexander Graham Bell, 1847 to 1922. Alexander Graham Bell had a lifelong interest in communication. He was also interested in the human voice. Bell's mother was deaf. His father was a speech teacher. In 1872, Bell began to tutor deaf children. He also worked to make a better telegraph. A telegraph sends and receives coded sound messages. The sounds were beeps and clicks. Each sound stood for a letter. A telegraph was the only way people could talk to each other from far away.
Bell experimented with the harmonic telegraph.
All right, so you should have been highlighting as you were reading. Alexander Graham Bell, he's pretty fascinating. It really, all of his things that he invented, or at least most of them, had to do with some sort of communication. He was really interested in communication and the human voice. Okay, and that probably has to do with his mother being deaf and his father being a speech teacher. Okay, so he worked to make a better telegraph. Okay, and we should probably highlight what a telegraph is. So, a telegraph sends and receives coded sound messages. Obviously, we don't need that now because we have the telephone, but this is where they were back then, right? It was the only way that people could talk to each other from far away. So that is so, so crazy, right? Okay, let's turn the page. We're going to read one more paragraph and then we'll write our main ideas.
Bell wanted to invent a machine that would send and receive the human voice. He worked on his idea for years. In 1876, Bell showed the world the first telephone. People in different places could now hear one another's voices.
Wow. So, Alexander Graham Bell was the first to invent the telephone. He did it in 1876, and he had to work on his idea for many, many years, right? They'd never seen one before. So he didn't know. He had to really work hard and do his research to figure out how was this going to work. Fascinating, right? And now think about our telephones now. Think about how far they've come, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and stop highlighting there or underlining if that's what you did, like me in the beginning. And we're going to go back and um, write some main ideas. So we'll do the first two together, and then I'm going to have you do the last one on your own. So go back to page 14 and get your pencils ready. So, an introduction main idea is really just kind of telling us what we're going to read about, or kind of like the definition of what we're reading. So, we highlighted a lot about what an inventor does, right? So, we should probably write that, and that they change people's lives. Okay. So, let's start by saying inventors create new things, find new ways to do things, and solve problems. Okay, so that was the first part of this paragraph that changed the way people live. So we kind of took both of our underlines right here and turned them into one sentence. So inventors create new things, find new ways to do things, and solve problems that change the way people live. Okay, so if you need to pause the video and finish writing that, go ahead. Otherwise, we're going to keep going. Our next main idea is going to be, we'll do it right next to his, next to his name. That way we know um, who we are talking about. So we're going to start by saying the inventor's name. So Thomas Edison. So we should probably say what he invented and then maybe made people's lives better, right? So Thomas Edison's inventions, such as, now what inventions did he do? The light bulb, phonograph, and movie camera. Those were all on that next page. Made people's lives better. So these are his three big um, inventions, right? So that's why we listed them. The one that his first invention was really important to him because it kind of set him up to where he wanted to continue. But the light bulb, the phonograph, and the movie camera really changed people's lives. That's why we included those right there. Okay, now let's go on to Alexander Graham Bell. If you need to pause the video and keep writing, go ahead. So for Alexander Graham Bell, we're going to do something very similar to what we already did. So we'll write Alexander Graham Bell's inventions, such as, we're starting it pretty much the same as we did before. The telegraph and telephone, right, helped people what? What did these two inventions do? You are going to finish this main idea and then you are going to read the entire thing to me on Canvas. So Alexander Graham Bell's inventions such as the telegraph and the telephone helped people. What did they help people do? All right, that is it for today, friends. Great job. We'll see you later.